We're talking about the legendary 1960 mint mark Abraham Lincoln penny. Why? Because this penny, from one of the most overlooked eras in coin history, could actually be worth up to $1.4 million. Sounds like a fairy tale, right? But trust me, it's no joke. So, buckle up, because we're diving deep into what makes this humble penny a potential gold mine, and how you can spot one before it gets away. Spoiler alert, you might have one hidden in your spare change jar, and you don't even know it. Alright, let's rewind to 1960 for a sec. I know, I know, it's hard to picture life before smartphones and selfies, but bear with me. In 1960, the US Mint made a few pennies that would go down in history for all the wrong reasons. The big deal with the 1960 penny is that there was a major mintage mistake. Now, when I say mintage mistake, I don't mean a tiny little typo, like when I accidentally call my cat dog. I mean a full-on, coin-changing event that was totally unintentional. The 1960 penny was supposed to be a standard, copper-based coin, but some of them were accidentally double die struck, meaning they were imprinted with double images of Abraham Lincoln's face. This created a unique coin that is now worth a ton of money. I mean, think about it. A penny that's worth $1.4 million? That's one heck of a lucky find. Here's the fun part. You might be thinking, how am I supposed to know if I've got a $1.4 million coin in my pocket? Well, first, take a close look at the date on the coin. You want to make sure it says 1960. Then, flip the coin over and check the mint mark. If there's a D for Denver below the date, you might have something special. This is great, but I'm not a coin expert. And hey, I get it. Coin collecting can feel like trying to figure out the Wi-Fi password at your friend's house. Confusing, frustrating, and you're just trying not to look like a fool. But fear not, because it's actually pretty simple. If you find one of these 1960 pennies, all you need to do is inspect it closely for signs of a doubled image on Abraham Lincoln's face and the letters around the coin. When I first started getting into coins, I was like every other beginner, thinking my quarters and pennies were just shiny pieces of metal I had no use for. Then one day, I was sitting on the couch, flipping through some old change, and I noticed something odd about one of my pennies. It looked different. At first, I thought I was imagining things, but I went ahead and did some research, and sure enough, I had stumbled upon a 1943 copper penny that could have been worth hundreds of thousands. So trust me, I get the excitement of finding something that could pay off big time. Now, when it comes to determining if your 1960 penny is worth a fortune, the grading matters. Coins are graded based on their condition, and it's all about the details. How worn the coin is, the clarity of the doubled images, and so on. If it's in mint condition, you could be looking at big money, like $1.4 million. But even if it's a little worn down, don't panic. These coins can still be worth hundreds or even thousands, depending on the specifics. Now, let's be real for a sec. Finding a 1960 penny worth millions is like finding a needle in a haystack. But hey, you never know when a little bit of luck might just come your way. So next time you dig through your change jar or spot a stray penny on the sidewalk, make sure to take a closer look before you toss it aside. You could be holding on to a piece of history and potentially a big payday. And if you found today's tip interesting or are just looking to learn more about coins worth money, hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Trust me, you don't want to miss out on more exciting tips and tricks that could make you a coin collector pro. Or, the next lucky millionaire. No, I'm not talking about some weird collector's dream. I'm talking about the 1988 no-mint mark Abraham Lincoln penny. Stick with me for the next 10 minutes, and I'll tell you why this little penny could be the jackpot you've been waiting for. So let's dive into this. What exactly is this mysterious 1988 no-mint mark penny, and why is it so valuable? Well, if you're a coin collector, you know that most US coins have a mint mark, right? That little D for Denver or S for San Francisco. These marks tell you where the coin was made. But the 1988 no-mint mark penny? Well, it was supposed to have a mint mark, but oops, it doesn't. And that tiny, almost unnoticeable error has turned this coin into a highly sought-after treasure. I mean, it's like that one time I showed up to a party with a potato salad that had no mayo. The looks I got, I thought I'd ruined the whole thing. But hey, turns out some people actually liked it. Same deal with this penny. That little missing mint mark is what makes it rare. But the real kicker here is how much it's worth right now. We're talking $1.70 million. Yep, you heard that right. A penny, just a single penny, could be worth more than your car, your house, or, well, probably most of your life savings. There's no way I have one of those. You might be right, but let's be honest. We've all had that moment of excitement when we find a coin and think, this is it. This is my retirement plan. I had a moment like that last year when I found a 1943 copper penny in my couch cushions. I mean, I was ready to call the coin experts, sell it, and live my best life in the Bahamas, but then I learned it was a fake. Sad trombone noise. But let's get back on track. To find a 1988 no-mint mark penny, you'll need to look carefully through your pennies from that year. These things don't just pop up out of nowhere. The best way to find one is to start looking at your pennies, especially the ones that don't have a mint mark. How do I know if I've got one of these bad boys? Good question. The penny needs to be from 1988. So, no, that 2009 penny you found in your dad's old jar of change doesn't count. Sorry. Examine the mint mark. It should be blank. No D for Denver. No S for San Francisco. Just the year, a little Abraham Lincoln, and the rest is history. If you think you've found one of these, don't just throw it into your penny jar with the rest. Take a closer look. The ones that are in pristine condition, especially if they've never been circulated, can fetch those astronomical prices. If you've got one that's been worn down from years of handling, it's still worth more than a regular penny, but not quite a cool million. But if you've got one that's in mint condition, my friend, you might just be looking at a seven-figure payout. Okay, now, before you get too carried away and start going on eBay thinking you're about to make a fortune, here's something you should know. It's not as simple as slapping a "for sale" sticker on it and calling it a day. No, there are a few hoops to jump through if you really want to cash in on your million-dollar penny. You'll need to authenticate it, of course. That means finding an expert who can confirm it's a legitimate error coin. This isn't something you can just Google and expect to make a fortune. You've got to put in the work. That's why I recommend doing some research, or even taking it to a reputable coin dealer who can guide you through the process. And let's talk about authenticity for a second. Because let me tell you, I once found a rare penny in my grandmother's attic. It looked ancient, had a strange shine to it, and I was ready to retire right there. But after a quick Google search and a trip to a local dealer, I learned it was just a novelty item made in the 1970s for some random coin collection. It wasn't even worth $1. I was crushed, but it made for a pretty funny story at family dinner. If you've got a 1988 penny with no mint mark, take a good look at it. It could be your ticket to a seriously fat paycheck, but you've got to do your research and make sure you're not getting scammed. Get it authenticated, and if it's the real deal, well, who knows? You could be the next coin millionaire, and hey, if you love discovering hidden treasures like this one, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on more coin tips, strategies, and all things money-making in the world of numismatics. You never know. Your next penny might just make you rich. I mean, if I find one of those 1988 no-mint mark pennies lying around, I'll let you all know. But for now, happy hunting, and keep those coins close. Do you have any old pennies lying around in your drawer or coin jar? Well, you might want to dig through that pile and give it a second look, because what I'm about to tell you could turn your pocket change into a small fortune. Imagine holding a coin that could be worth over $1.3 million. Sounds too good to be true, right? But believe it or not, that's exactly the kind of value some people have found in the 1964 mint mark Abraham Lincoln penny. Stick around because we're diving deep into why this penny is so special, what makes it worth a small fortune, and how you might just find one sitting right under your nose. And hey, by the end of this video, you might be digging through your old coin collection like a treasure hunter. So let's get into it. Now, before you start pulling out every penny from your pocket, let's talk about this particular 1964 penny. That D stands for Denver, where the coin was minted. But the real kicker here is that not all 1964 pennies are worth millions. It's one specific type of 1964 penny that's got everyone buzzing in the coin collecting world. It's an error coin. You see, back in 1964, the US Mint was in full production mode with these pennies, cranking them out by the billions. But somehow, in all that hustle, a few pennies were struck with an error, a double die. This means that the die used to stamp the coin was misaligned, causing the details, like the words and the date, to appear doubled, giving the coin a very distinct and unique look. How do you spot one of these bad boys? Well, first, look closely at the date and the lettering on the coin. The most obvious giveaway is the doubled lettering. The word Liberty, the date 1964, and the phrase In God We Trust should all have that blurry, duplicated look, almost like someone tried to stamp it twice. And if you're looking at one of these coins in person and you're thinking, hey, that looks weird, you might just have a potential gold mine on your hands. But don't get too excited just yet. The true value of these coins comes from their rarity and condition. I remember when I first started collecting coins, I had a ton of old pennies. I thought they were all worth something because, well, they were old, right? One day, I found this beat-up, rusted penny that looked like it had seen better days. I showed it to my friend, who's a seasoned coin collector, and I was like, check it out. I bet this is worth a ton. He took one look at it, chuckled, and said, that's worth about as much as a cup of coffee at your local diner. Turns out, it was just an old, corroded penny that had zero value. Classic rookie mistake. So, if you do find a 1964D with that double die error, don't just assume it's worth millions right off the bat. Condition matters a lot. The higher the grade, the more it'll be worth. A mint condition 1964D double die penny could fetch over $1 million at auction. Yes, you heard that right, $1.3 million. But if yours is scratched up or dented, it's going to bring in a little less, but still a lot more than your average penny. Now, if you're looking for some tips on how to make sure your coin is in the best shape, it helps to keep it in a protective case. Don't touch it with your bare hands because oils from your fingers can damage it. Store it in a dry, cool place, and make sure it's safe from the elements. Treat it like it's the last cookie in the jar. So, the next time you dig into your old coin collection or you find a penny on the ground, take a second to check it out. It could be the lucky coin you never knew you had. And if you happen to find that 1964D double die Abraham Lincoln penny, then congratulations. You could be looking at some serious cash. But hey, even if you don't find $1 million penny, don't get discouraged. There are plenty of other rare and valuable coins out there, and I'm here to help you spot them. Make sure you hit subscribe and turn on the notifications because I'll be sharing more tips, tricks, and coin hunting strategies. You won't want to miss out on all the money-making secrets I've got for you. Who knows? Your next treasure hunt could be just around the corner. There's a 2013 penny out there that could be worth a jaw-dropping $1 million. Yep, you heard that right, a penny. The same one you probably tossed into the jar or lost in your couch cushions. But how could this possibly be true? Isn't it just a regular old penny? Well, buckle up because this coin has quite the story. And trust me, you'll want to hear this one. So grab your favorite beverage and let's dive into the wild world of rare pennies. All right, let's break it down. Most of us are used to pennies being worth, well, 1 cent, barely enough to buy a piece of gum. But what if I told you that a particular 2013 penny, one without a mint mark, is currently valued at a mind-blowing $1 million? Sounds crazy, right? I mean, it's just a penny, something you'd find on the street or the bottom of your backpack. Here's where it gets interesting. In 2013, the US Mint made a pretty big mistake, or, depending on how you look at it, a big opportunity for collectors like you. That year, some pennies were released without the usual mint mark. Now, before we get too deep into this, you might be wondering, what's the big deal with a mint mark? Mint marks are those little letters on coins that show which mint produced them. You've probably seen D for Denver or S for San Francisco. But some 2013 pennies, possibly by error, didn't have any mint mark at all. It was like a little slip-up, and it didn't take long for eagle-eyed collectors to spot it. Now, let me tell you a little story about my own coin hunt. One day, I was going through my change, just like any regular person looking for loose coins for parking meters. I found an old coin, and for a second, I thought it looked pretty interesting. But guess what? It wasn't worth a thing. Maybe a few cents, tops. But hey, I held on to it anyway, thinking one day I'd find a treasure. Flash forward a few years, and I learned that I could have found a 2013 penny like the one we're talking about today and could have been rolling in cash. Moral of the story? Don't ignore your pennies. You never know when one could be the next $1 million gem. So, what's so special about this 2013 penny without a mint mark? Well, it turns out that error coins, like this one, are highly sought after by collectors. People love a good mistake, and this little penny is no exception. Its rarity makes it incredibly valuable in the coin market, and some of them have sold for over $1 million. It's like the holy grail of modern-day pennies. But hold on, you might be thinking, okay, I want to get my hands on one of these, but how do I even know if I have one? Good question. The key is to look closely at your 2013 pennies. If you find one without any mint mark, you've just discovered a potential gold mine. Of course, the condition of the coin matters too. A penny that's been rolled around in your pocket for years probably won't fetch you $1 million, but if it's in great shape, especially if it has that crisp, shiny, uncirculated look, you could be holding a rare treasure. It's not just about finding a 2013 penny with no mint mark. Coin collecting is all about paying attention to the details, doing your research, and, most importantly, having a little bit of luck on your side. So, next time you're digging through that pile of coins or raiding your spare change jar, take a moment to check for those little details that could make you a coin collector's hero. If you learned something today, or if you just love hearing about coins worth big bucks, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I'll be here with more tips, tricks, and fun coin facts that could help you find the next rare gem. You won't want to miss what we have coming up next. We're diving into a coin so rare it could be worth up to $1.9 million. Yes, you heard that right. It's the 2014 Abraham Lincoln penny with no mint mark. But don't go running to your piggy bank just yet. Let's take a closer look at what makes this little copper circle worth more than most people's yearly salary. Now, before you start checking your pockets like a madman, let me give you the lowdown on why this penny is so special and, more importantly, how you can tell if you've got one of these golden, well, copper tickets hiding in your collection. First off, let's talk about what a mint mark is, in case you've never heard the term. Mint marks are those little letters found on coins that tell you where the coin was made. Usually, you'll see a D for Denver, an S for San Francisco, or no mint mark at all for coins struck in Philadelphia. But here's where it gets wild. In 2014, a small batch of pennies were accidentally struck without the mint mark, and that tiny detail could be worth up to $1.90 million. Now, you might be thinking, well, I've got pennies everywhere. I'm rich, baby. Hold your horses. Just because you find a 2014 penny without a mint mark doesn't automatically make it a millionaire maker. There are other factors that play into it, like the condition of the coin, and let's be honest, that penny from your change jar might look a little worse for wear. But if yours is in mint condition, see what I did there? You might just have a treasure on your hands. Here's a little story from my own life to bring this home. A few months ago, I was going through an old jar of pennies I inherited from my grandfather. You know, the kind of jar that's been collecting dust for decades. I started going through them, half expecting to find nothing but crusty pennies with questionable stains, when I stumbled upon something shiny. Not a 2014 penny, but a 1969 S penny with a weird doubling effect on the Liberty part of the coin. Long story short, it wasn't worth $1.9 million, but I did end up getting a decent amount for it because of its rarity. Moral of the story? You never know what you're sitting on until you check. But back to the 2014 no mint mark penny. Here's where it gets interesting. Only a few of these were made, so it's incredibly rare. How rare? Well, there are estimates that fewer than 10 of these pennies are floating around out there. Maybe you've got one of the lucky ones. Maybe not. But if you do, then you're looking at a huge payout from collectors who will stop at nothing to get their hands on it. How do you find out if yours is worth $1.9 million? Well, first, check for the date. It has to be a 2014. Then, look carefully on the reverse side of the penny. If there's no mint mark, you've got the jackpot. But don't start counting your millions just yet. Coins in perfect condition, we're talking pristine, no scratches, no wear, no fingerprints, are the ones that can fetch the big bucks. And even then, you want to have it authenticated by a professional. Not every dealer will know what they've got, so it's worth doing the legwork to make sure you're not selling it for a song. So, the next time you're rummaging through your change or that old penny jar in the back of your closet, don't just dismiss those pennies as just change. One of those little guys could change your life if you've got a 2014 no mint mark penny in perfect condition. And hey, even if you don't be discouraged. There are tons of other coins out there with hidden value, just waiting for the right collector to find them. Before I let you go, I've got a quick favor to ask. If you enjoyed this little treasure hunt and want to learn more tips and tricks on coins that are worth big money, hit that subscribe button. I'll be back with more cool stories, valuable finds, and maybe even a few laughs along the way. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. You've got a handful of the usual stuff. Pennies that are probably worth, well, a penny. But then, you pull out one shiny little guy, and something feels off. You flip it over and boom, it has a D mint mark. A 1970 D penny, to be exact. Now, here's the kicker. That seemingly run-of-the-mill penny you just found could actually be worth up to $1.2 million. Yep, you heard that right, $1.2 million. You're thinking, no way, a penny from 1970? Well, my friends, that's what we're diving into today. Grab your magnifying glass and let's go on a coin hunt. Okay, let's set the stage. You've probably seen 1970 D pennies before. They're pretty common, right? You might have a ton of them lying around in change jars, or maybe you find a few while you're scrounging around for spare change. But this isn't just any 1970 D penny. It's the one that could make you a small fortune if you know what to look for. What makes the 1970 D penny so special? Well, in 1970, the U.S. Mint accidentally produced a batch of pennies with a double die error. Essentially, it's a mistake in the stamping process where the die used to strike the coin was misaligned. The result? Some of the letters and numbers on these pennies are doubled. And not just a little bit. We're talking about noticeable doubling on the date, the word liberty, and even the motto "In God We Trust" on the front of the coin. You know what that means, right? If you've got one of these, you've got something way more valuable than your average penny. In fact, if the doubling is really sharp and noticeable, a well-preserved 1970 D double die penny could be worth up to $1.2 million, depending on its condition. That's right, you could literally find a coin worth more than a car hiding in your couch cushions. Now, let's talk about how to spot one of these bad boys. First off, get yourself a magnifying glass. No, seriously. I know it sounds a bit like you're gearing up for a Sherlock Holmes mystery, but trust me, you'll need it. Examine the details on the coin, especially the date and the inscriptions. If you notice some of those letters or numbers looking like they've got a ghost image next to them, that's the doubling effect. You might be holding a gold mine. If your 1970 D penny has visible doubling on the date or lettering but looks worn out, it may still hold some value, but not nearly as much as a pristine example. A coin in mint condition will be the one that pulls in the big bucks. So, no tossing these coins around like they're just pocket change. But how do I know if I've got a $1.2 million penny on my hands? Well, I've got a funny little story for you. I remember the first time I stumbled upon what I thought was a rare penny. I was in high school, and I was definitely more interested in video games than coins at the time. I had this old penny lying around for years, and I remember thinking it was cool because it was from the 70s. So I Googled it, got all excited about my find, and rushed over to a coin shop. I handed it over, and the shopkeeper took one quick glance, tapped it with a coin scale, and said, "Sorry, kid. It's just a regular 1970 D." I was so disappointed. But hey, it was a great lesson in the importance of knowing exactly what you're looking for. So if you're lucky enough to spot a real double die penny, don't make the same mistake I did. Make sure to have it professionally appraised. You never know what you might be holding. So, what do you do now with this newfound knowledge? First, check your pockets, coin jars, and that dusty old piggy bank. If you find a 1970 D penny that looks a little off, take a closer look. It could be your ticket to a serious payday. And if you're not sure whether it's worth a fortune, get it checked out by a professional. It might save you a lot of time and guesswork. And hey, if you've enjoyed learning about this amazing penny and want to discover more hidden treasures and tips on how to find valuable coins, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I'm always sharing tips, tricks, and stories to help you on your coin collecting journey. Who knows? The next time you check your change, you might find a penny worth $1 million. So, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and stay tuned for more. Well, Before you toss them in the coin jar or send them off to the bank, you might want to take a second look at one specific penny, the 1976 D Mint Mark Abraham Lincoln penny. Why? Because this little guy could be worth a whole lot more than just 1 cent. Now, you're probably thinking, really? A penny? Worth $1 million? Yup, you heard that right. It might sound crazy, but the 1976 D Lincoln penny has actually sold for up to $1 million. Sounds like something straight out of a treasure hunt movie, doesn't it? Stick around because I'm going to break it all down for you in the next 10 minutes, and trust me, by the end, you'll be checking your pockets and coin jars like it's Black Friday at the coin store. Let's dive in. All right, before we get into why this penny is so special, let's talk about the basics. If you're new to coin collecting, or maybe you just haven't been paying attention to the coin market, here's what you need to know. The 1976 D Lincoln penny is part of a very special series made in honor of America's bicentennial. Yes, that's right. We were celebrating 200 years of freedom. But before we get too patriotic, let's focus on why this penny in particular is making waves. Now, the D Mint mark refers to the Denver Mint where these pennies were made, but here's the kicker. Most of these pennies aren't worth more than their face value. I mean, it's still a penny, right? However, there was a small number of 1976 D Lincoln pennies that were struck with an error. And it's this error that makes them potentially worth a fortune. You see, some of these pennies were struck with an unusual design mistake. Instead of the typical smooth edge, some of these pennies have a double die error. Basically, the image on the coin was stamped twice, which causes the image to be blurry or slightly misaligned. And folks, these coins are highly sought after by collectors. But here's where it gets crazy. A coin with this double die error has been sold for nearly $1 million. Now, don't panic and think that your penny jar is about to make you a millionaire. It's not that simple. Only a very few of these double die error pennies actually exist, and even fewer are in great condition. The ones that have gone for insane amounts of money were in pristine shape, uncirculated, and well-preserved. Let me tell you a quick story about how easy it is to overlook a potentially valuable coin. A few years ago, I was at a garage sale. Yeah, those treasure troves that we all love to hit up on weekends. And there was this old box of coins. Most of them looked like typical worn-down pennies and nickels. But I spotted a 1976 penny sitting there, and without thinking much of it, I almost tossed it back into the pile. Fortunately, I decided to pocket it and do a little research later. Guess what I found out? That 1976 penny didn't have the double die error, but the fact that I almost overlooked it gave me a good reminder. Always check your change. You never know when you might have a hidden gem. Now, I'm not saying every 1976 D penny is worth $1 million, but you've got to know what to look for if you're ever lucky enough to find one of these. Check the mint mark. It's a D4 Denver on the coin's reverse side. Inspect the coin for any visible double die errors, and make sure it's in good condition. If you find one with the error and it's in great shape, you could be sitting on a gold mine. But here's the thing. It's not just about finding a penny that might be worth a fortune. It's about understanding how coin collecting works, learning what makes certain coins valuable, and building your knowledge along the way. Who knows? This might just be the start of a coin collection that could make you some serious money in the future. So, to wrap up, always check your change and keep an eye out for that 1976 D Lincoln penny with the double die error. While not every coin will be worth $1 million, there's definitely a chance you could discover something valuable in your spare change. And even if you don't, you'll have the knowledge to spot the next big find. If you want more tips on coins worth money, strategies to help you grow your collection, and a little bit of humor along the way, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I've got tons of content coming up that'll help you become a coin expert in no time. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Thanks for watching, and good luck with your coin hunts. Keep an eye out for those pennies. One might just change your life. Did you ever think you'd be holding on to a penny that could be worth a small fortune? Well, I've got a story that's going to blow your mind, and it involves a tiny coin from 1964 with no mint mark. That's right, a 1964 penny, which could be sitting in your pocket, your change jar, or even under the couch cushions, is worth a whopping $1.5 million today. Yep, you heard that right, $1.5 million. Stick around because by the end of this video, you'll know how to spot this rare gem and why it's one of the most sought-after pennies out there. Trust me, if you've ever found a penny on the ground and just tossed it aside, you might want to reconsider next time. Alright, let's get into the meat of it. We're talking about a 1964 penny, one that has absolutely no mint mark on it. Now, before we all get too excited, let's backtrack a little. If you're scratching your head right now, wondering, what's a mint mark and why does it matter? I've got you covered. A mint mark is a little letter stamped on most coins to show where they were made. Most pennies have a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco. But here's the kicker. In 1964, for reasons unknown, maybe it was a case of, oops, we forgot. A small batch of pennies was made without any mint mark at all. And guess what? Those few coins that were meant to be in circulation never left the bag in the vault. Eventually, when collectors realized how rare they were, their value shot up, way up. Back in the day, a 1964 penny was just another penny, worth 1 cent. But today, it's worth so much more. It's not uncommon to see them listed for $1.5 million if it's in top condition. You might think, that's crazy, right? How could a tiny penny, worth 1 cent once, be worth a small fortune? Well, that's the beauty of rarity in the coin world. So, how do you find one? First off, if you've got a 1964 penny sitting around, here's what you want to do. Inspect it carefully. No mint mark? Congratulations. You might be sitting on a treasure chest of coins. Now, don't go off thinking every 1964 penny is worth $1.5 million, though. Condition is everything. A penny in mint condition, meaning it looks like it just came out of the packaging, is the holy grail. If it's been tossed around in your piggy bank, well, it's going to lose value. The more worn the coin is, the less it's worth. But if you find a pristine 1964 penny with no mint mark, you may just hit the jackpot. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, how do I even tell if I've got one of these bad boys? Great question. First off, check for the mint mark, or lack thereof, underneath Abraham Lincoln's shoulder on the reverse side. If you don't see a D or an S, you've got a potentially rare coin. You'll also want to give it a good once-over under decent lighting to make sure it's not just a beat-up old penny. You don't need a magnifying glass, just good old-fashioned careful inspection. I remember one time, I found a 1964 penny while sorting through change at a friend's house. I thought nothing of it. I almost tossed it into the meh pile, until I did a quick Google search and saw what it was worth. Now, it wasn't the no mint mark variety, but it was a huge wake-up call for me to pay more attention to the coins I handle. It's a reminder, never, ever underestimate a humble penny. So, there you have it, folks. A tiny little penny from 1964 with no mint mark could be worth millions if it's in the right condition. Imagine finding one in your change or at the bottom of a drawer. It's like finding a hidden treasure without the map. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's awesome. But how can I get better at spotting these rare coins? Well, that's exactly why you should hit that subscribe button and join me here on the channel. I'll keep sharing tips, tricks, and coin strategies so you'll know exactly what to look for the next time you stumble upon some loose change. And hey, if you've got any cool coin stories, or if you've ever found something super valuable in your wallet, drop them in the comments. I love hearing about your discoveries. Until next time, happy coin hunting, and who knows? Maybe you'll be the next one to cash in on that rare find. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.